it's always a game of Siege. And upsets can happen and often have happened. So, unKnights, you have the opportunity to, well, first of all, climb yourselves out from that bottom part of that scoreboard just ever so little. But of course, holding G2 back in their chase for the top 4 as well. G2, of course, the European champions at this point. Yes, it was under a different squad.
Yeah.
But they're looking to double that one down. They're looking to, first of all, go for the major and then qualify for that top 4 at the end of the day. And as we have a Maverick and Thatcher ban, that is going to be enabling some of the, well, anti-hard breach to come into play. Think of a Cade, for example, maybe a Mute or a Bandit trick if they're feeling lucky. Of course, the Flores might be wanting to have a word with them as a result. Cade does get banned, however, and that is very, very understandable. You don't see a map, you don't see a Thatcher. It's going to be almost impossible to open up these hatches if the Cade is allowed to be alive, unless they remove it. And the smoke as well from G2. It's a ban they went with twice in a row now. Once to counter Bree, now tossed up against unKnights yet once again.
Who was their attacker ban? Was it another hard destruction? Did they double down hard destruction last
Thatcher. Oh, last play day was, I believe, it was a double down. It was no, Yana they banned last time around to counter Shaiko. Shaiko.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, G2 and their bans, they love to pull specific things away. I think that something that we've sort of highlighted before is the mobility of the team in terms of their operator selection. They have Hungry, who is a man that you can put on everything, which they said was such a big boon for this team and this roster to be able to say, well, we kind of need this, and he can sort of step up and go, yeah, I'll do it. We instantly see him jumping into the mirror, an operator that is often removed in this sort of setup. But here, starting on Gym Bedroom, starting on what we had the statistics earlier, was that tertiary site, was the site where we haven't seen, you know, as much as the primary two, and it gives you a little bit of that swan song of, well, they don't truly know what they might have to bring here, but it's also club, so you generally are already quite restricted in those selections.
Now, I'm not quite sure how many times they played this side against BDS, but I do remember they won at least once, possibly even twice, but I'm not 100% sure of that. At least it was a very good setup we saw coming down from G2, of course, with the mirror window towards one construction, as you see being put down here. And you might be wondering, why did they open that part up with the shotgun first? Well, it might give you a little bit of extra view out of the mirror window. Might have been the reason for it. Second mirror window, of course, placed in the bathroom. Will be...
Well, that's not good.
No, that's not good at all. You might be able to get on a move in a little bit. Nothing has been called yet, as he does now disconnect. Either way, unKnights are continuing on and taking this first round up against G2 with a man less. So that is it's not going to be helping them much. And on a side which is statistically the one that should be brought all towards the attacking's favor, is going to be a bit of a gift into G2's side.
It's also, you look at what's just been taken out there as well. You've lost the Thermite, so all of your hard destruction, all of your entrance now has to come from Hibana, and you could instantly see the original run there was Hibana was trying to hit logistics out to potentially put some pressure on, but with such a wide extension here, you now can no longer open up on CC, or you can't open up with the same depth that you want to do to get the angles and push them into a more uncomfortable situation. You have to sort of isolate your way around Jacuzzi instead and go for a much tighter push, because you know that once you pass this wall, you've then got another mirror window, or you've then got another setup, regardless if she's there or not, just behind inside the shower in the bathroom. It is always a blow to lose your second hard destruction, or what is often your primary with the Thermite in this role, and it's going to turn into a bit of an aggressive frag, but Citizen, he's the man behind the bar, and all he's serving is death.
Definitely so, picks up that first kill. Now, unKnights will be 2 men down. Kiox is just holding off the long angle he has just created. Kayak has taken control of that window as Virtue now takes down Blaz, who was going to go on a little bit of a roam. So G2 will now be falling back just slightly, not giving away anything for free. As angles are being held, Durza is just holding off. Kioxis is being challenged as we speak. He's thinking about a cam potentially being on the outside, but it's not the case. There's no Valkyrie. Defaults have been taken care of, so it's literally just the information game that G2 has under control. Quick bait there for the rappel up. We'll do it now with the actual diffuser in hand. They still have the package under control. And this Durza now spots out the mirror. Wants to go for the actual swing into Hungry, but doesn't manage to land the kill.
Well, now they've been able to take a bit of ground. Going to see if they can get a grenade from underneath just to pop at the right place. Does remove some utility, but doesn't remove Citizen, which is probably the biggest bit of utility you could try. The two bodies have to try and push their way up. Chaoxys has no health, but they also only have 25 seconds. So wherever they decide to drive through, it's going to have to be sooner rather than later. Durza, he's pulled off. They're buying themselves some time. They're hoping this gives them a little bit for Nura to reconnect. They know that they don't really have a chance here. It's a moment to have a conversation, to hope they don't have to use their reconnect for this, or however it might get boiled down. But G2, it's always tough in this situation to know just how much of a victory that was handed to them.
Yeah.
But either way, it's a false start for the French team.
Yes, and then either way for G2, they'll look at this, you know, it's statistically the side they have the most struggles with in the defense to get this one handed and continue their rotation as a result. Now, unKnights will not be calling the rehost yet. They'll literally call it at the very final second they're able to make sure that they have the opportunity of potentially saving it for later on. I'm not quite sure what the issue was. It could have been a disconnect. It could have also been an internet issue. And the pause is being requested now. That means it will be granted through, but you save a bit of hard breach just to provide themselves an opportunity of potentially breaching something else. Now, in the meantime, we have the player that has returned now. Nura is back on the board, and G2 will now fight themselves up at CCTV cache, which has deviated a little bit. It went from around 50% to a 36% win rate, now back to a 52%. G2 will show why. You do see the mute on the board, you do see the mirror on the board. Question, of course, will be where these windows will be located. Okay, that is in the garage, so normally I would say this could be a point for contention. It will be a point of contention because next to this wall, next to the CC wall, you want to take control of garage. Now, there is a mirror window there, which makes it even more necessary to fight for control of garage. The way it has been put down at least makes it so you cannot shoot it from the door, so you need to actually be on the rafters to open up the canister. That does also mean that G2 is going to be putting a lot of utility towards that side, and they're going to allow them to just open this wall up for free, because why not? There is a mirror window that will be holding it off. Now you have angles from both sides that will be contesting the balcony, which is going to make it very hard. You see a lot of that utility instead that was supposed to be down there near the actual garage, and now I believe it was Hungry quickly running over to potentially take care of the exothermic that has been pre-placed but cannot blow up due to a mute jammer.
Well, the slow and steady starts with a lot more pace this time around. They have a full strength. They're going to make sure that they're able to utilize it. We saw a quick approach towards that wall, and they're going to sort of try and get a handle around the opposite side as well, really limit the movement that G2 can have, a team that does often like to explore. I think they've potentially seen that mirror window in the top of Garage. They've seen and sort of pieced together that's going to be a very hefty hold across those rafters, and they don't want to try to make that dance happen. For now, they're instead going to just try and focus and bait and play a little bit around the construction side instead.
You see how worried unKnights is for potential Valkyrie camps to be located, because in the last two times G2 were allowed to play club, the Valkyrie was a very, very big part. What you've seen so far is a lot of these players just looking up in the air, hoping to find one, as Durza found Hungry. Of course, no Valkyrie on the board, and the utility on the wall will be taken care of by that grenade. The impact, or the exothermic, will blow up as well, and that means that pressure will now be able to be come down, or brought down from the balcony side. But will unKnights actually go for that? Or are they going to go for a very heavy construction push? Because there's only 65 seconds left on that clock. They need to make a decision. The rotation does take some time, around 10-20 seconds if you want to go over to the actual balcony side of things. And for now, it does look heavily towards, or heavily favored towards, an actual construction take. We have 2-3 players around this area. Might go for a quick hop in actually on the window, but due to the mirror window's placements, it's going to be very difficult. They need to take care of those first, and Chaoxys is the one that is responsible, as he does have that X-Scarus available to him.
Well, Nara suffers on the split as they smoke off that mirror window that's on top of the garage rafters. The second one pops off. They still have well had. Grenades in pocket. They've all just popped off on the split. There is a very long arm C4, but Void drives in, and Virtue and Kayak are able to keep Red under lock and key. Look at the body that's coming around the bottom of Red, though. The time that they have up here is very limited. They've got to go for the swing. The C4 and the pre-call doesn't quite catch the body, but he's well aware and ready. Concerned about the swing on the opposite side, but it's Durza that locks it off, and Kaoxis puts themselves into a very good situation. A handful of seconds left. The pop-up and the pre-fire, they're going for the call. They know that the body's behind the mirror window. The spray comes round. He's put bullets to the side of a man, but he can't quite get the lockdown. A 2 versus 1 post-plant situation. They've stacked themselves with a bit of depth. The pre-fire can't quite connect fully again. Scrapes and scratches aren't what you need, but that is a great take against Durza. The other body of Kaoxis has sat pretty onside, but he swings against it. A quad for Virtue handed to him.
All they had to do is not peek a single thing. Wait for the jump in sound because there was no rotation. I was going to say the setup of G2 here with Virtue being the last man left on side of the rafters is everything but favorable for them. Because he needed to jump in from the window or go down below and go up the stairs. Like either way, they would have known exactly where he was going to be coming from. But they gave it away. They went for the peaks, both of them. And that allows G2 to escape with a round here. That should have been theirs from the start. If you looked at how long they managed to stall everything out. Of course, the kill came in. The man advantage was there for unKnights. Everything was going their way. And now we do see the infamous Valkyrie to make its appearance. The unKnights players in the past 2 rounds have been looking out for these cameras the entire time. They haven't found a single one. It gets 6 picked in now. Are they still going to be as worried about it? Are they still going to be, you know, as, well, checking every single corner, every single hiding spot for it? Because it does cost you some time. And if it's not there, why would you?
What a start for Virtue, a player who has themselves admitted they've had a little bit of a mentality problem recently. They couldn't quite work out why things weren't connecting for them the way that they'd been able to connect the dots previously, but opening up with this 4K and part of it being a 2 versus 1 clutch. Potentially, obviously, mistakes were made, but it still takes a great player in that stress situation to be able to punish them, to know when to play your hand and when to hold them and fold them, and he made sure that everything came up as a bit of a flush for him. 2-2-0. They go for their 3-site rotation now, and they're going to play around with the Valk and the situation in plays that, as you said, has been a very big boon for them before. 3 C4s and still this mirror consistency, and I'm thinking that mirror on the top there of rafters posed a bigger problem, even though unKnights seemed like they wanted to ignore it at the start.
Well, they could perfectly fine ignore it because they managed to overswarm, you know, outrun Cash and had control of that. They had control of top red at some point, and at that moment in time, there's only one rotation out of that rafters, and that is through that window, and that is basically something they could have held off. They could have made sure that Virtue had no opportunity out of that window, or they would have been very well aware. They could just plant right on the other side. Look at Kaoxis. He's really searching for it. He's looking with the peripheral view as well, hoping for something blue to light up. He just wants to find these cameras because they know how big of an issue they can be. And you can see how, like on the drone now even, like so much time is being used to try and find out if there is any Valkyrie camera. Now I believe one did get spotted out by the drone that is just passing by, and Kaoxis will be indeed taking care of that with a quick ping and a quick shot. There's 1 taken care of, still 2 on the board, however.
I think this is a lot about G2, but obviously they've been playing these Valk cams. This is their 3rd club in a row, and they've been so big with them that this is the obvious reason unKnights wanted to come here. They have done their prep. They've done their research. They were looking for these cams specifically behind the lights. They double-checked with the drone to make sure they knew which one it was. And since then, they're also keeping themselves very well stretched and paced away. Hey, look, there's another play that we've seen G2 run quite a lot to a lot of success. They're aware of the danger of that C4 and that camera that's up there. unKnights have done their homework. It's showing, but tests are sometimes much trickier than the homework can otherwise lead you to believe.
And taking care of the pre-placed C4 there in the kitchen. Also creating an angle, of course, to try and challenge Citizen. A man who has been a nuisance for many of these teams. Very often drops about 20, but that camera is still active, so they know exactly that Nure is in, and Citizen goes for the white swing on the hatch, and we'll be able to find him as well. That's an opening here for G2, backed up by that Valkyrie camera that is still active in the kitchen.
Well, a bit of a rotation's coming through now. They are still not massively safe they feel because, well, if I don't have a C4, I still have an MPX with a huge amount of bullets, and I'm just going to keep spraying them through and making everything you do uncomfortable. 20 seconds. They're going to have to try and hit their way via Moto. They still don't have the pressure on blue, and they've lost it even more as unK locks off the opener against Blaz. The spray comes through on the connection towards Oil Pit, but they cannot quite connect in the same manner. There it is. The trades come back round against them. Virtue with another leaves just Voy isolated by the main double door entrance. 3 seconds. He shakes his head. He knows the situation he's in. Frustrations and a smiley face, I think that was going to be.
It was indeed. He attempted for it. Also, the fuse was dropped at the moment they started to attempt to go for an execute. Of course, was dropped by the Thermite. That got taken care of by Citizen, who had the calls coming out from the chems and just swung wide. Knew that he is, you know, as good as he is. Knew with his confidence he would be able to pick up that kill. Dropped the diffuser as a result, and it forced him to go quite aggressive. And now unKnights is going to be going for a quick tactical timeout. 45 seconds to at least pull up around and potentially go for motivation there, or I forgot the word. Is worth.
Well, I think that's the big thing as well, is unKnights, that's the word. unKnights that we've seen, they're cautious, they're slow, they're checking every corner where those cams can be, especially to see if they can have, I guess, some more security, and they're finding themselves timing out. They're finding themselves stalling out a little bit. Everything is happening late in the round, which, to be fair, it can. But when I think of this unKnights roster, I think of pace. I think of outlandish takes and drives and playing their own game. And I think that's the sort of main underlying thing, is they're playing into G2's game right now. They're sort of stuck chasing the tail of where the cameras have been put, where the plays are coming together. And G2, they're a fantastic technical team, technical team, but they're one that still likes to be mobile when a round's coming. So unKnights, they're taking a moment and having a conversation. They're going to try and, I guess, get their mindset back towards let's try and play our pace, and then let's let G2 play their overcorrecting game against us.
And they will have to. Quick thing I saw is that Hungry hasn't put down any of the mirror windows yet. Wanted to put it down first inside of the bathroom, but decided not to. Now, the reason for that could be is because they might be expecting a Twitch to be on the board, or they want to save the mirror window until the last very moment, because if they do not push in from Jacuzzi, there's no need to put a mirror window down on that wall. You might be able to still use it elsewhere, for example, inside of the, what's that called? Stash. Looking into the site, you know, opportunities are there. And for now, he just holds on for it, because there is no need for him to put it down. Just make sure that you do not die before you have the opportunity of putting it up.
Yeah, it's that sort of bold adaptation. It's saying, well, we're going to try and apply, I suppose, the pressure and the holdback that I said. They're a team that loves to adapt, and I guess it's seeing how the adaptation comes through. The spray over the top and the side, and this is sort of what we wanted a little bit from unKnights, that pace and that aggression. There is a quick heart hop, and there's a lot of explosions, and they've instantly gone, let's not play this game. Fair enough, because this is what that team talk was about.
So there wasn't a rotation there, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't think there was a rotation. There could have been, but he chose to go for the window. It was a dangerous hop out because he heard the grenade pin being pulled out. He knew that his life was ending very soon. The grenade came in and exploded right after he jumped through. Now, that could have been a good, you know, that could be the grenade, but it could also be an impact. I'm not quite sure which one it was. Either way, a lot of the utility is now currently being used by the side of unKnights to try and take control of CCTV and cache. However, G2 currently has a lot of manpower directed towards the side as well.
That was a very clever Hibana hole opening there. They knew that there was someone on the top of red, and they wanted to make sure that they didn't have an easy time going for a rotate. As soon as it was pinged by the Echo, unK picked up and moved out of there and said, well, I've got to rotate now, because otherwise I'm going to be running through an active and watched firefight. This is the push that comes up. The Banshee gets dropped. The Iana Gemini comes in on the opposite side. There's a swing. They're concerned, but the man is hopped up on a table, takes the fight. But it's Chaos that wins out. Finally gets the lock on Virtue, but there's that angle he was concerned about before. For good measure, Hungry says, I've got a Vector. That thing is a laser beam.
Definitely so, and now we'll be rotating around. unK will be able to pick up the kill to Blast, confirms him with the secret shotgun. Holding off on a very, very tight angle there as Hungary finally put down that final mirror window. It is indeed towards the jacuzzi wall, even though the unKnights is not really pushing from that direction. However, now if someone will be pushing into the strip club, into the gym, I have to say, there's no really anything they can do as unK is dug in deep out of nowhere, has that shotgun still, and will be trying to go for a bit of a rotate. Knows it could be coming up red, knows it could be coming through the door. He's basically stuck in this situation here, but he'll try and pick up as many players as he possibly can before he gets taken out.
Another moment punished. Kayak with another lockdown. There's the back of Yonka. A bit of revenge for the kill just before, but with a handful of seconds, no diffuser and a spray through against, well, at least an exit. Almost found one more, but Kayak had the lockdown, and it was a better pace that we saw, but G2, they aggressively responded. They had their first line, and they made sure that they were one step ahead, and I think that's a good thing to do. When you're 3 rounds up, and you're in this situation where sometimes you can get a bit complacent, especially when you've been able to pull off pretty solid holds across these rounds. I think it was, if they'd got the kill, it would have been a flawless the round before. They didn't get complacent. They realized the threat that unKnights could be when those rotations were being opened up, when the grenade was pulled, and they made sure, G2, that they weren't caught by a team, because unKnights can be dangerous, and you have to keep them in that mindset.
Really have to say that I like the onion setup that G2 has employed here. You saw them first inside of garage rafters. Fall back into cache, fall back into construction, fall back into logi and site and gym. But by the time there's no time left for unKnights to do anything, and by the time there's also no manpower left to do anything, because by every little thing that you attack, you take damage. You might take a loss. By the time you finally reach the site, you're left with 1 or 2 players that can potentially prove an upset. Didn't happen, of course, and we're back at CCTV cache, the sites that was won before due to a clutch of Virtue, and it is a different setup coming through. No mirror this time will be shown. We do, however, see the same setup onto garage and rafters. So what G2 will have to hope for is that it this time does not come again down to the player that is playing on the rafters, has to jump through a window to potentially get back in, because you saw it was a lot of, well, luck and good gun skill from Virtue that he was able to get that clutch off. So he shouldn't have been peaked. He should not have been peaked by the unKnights players, yet they both try to hold an angle where both were exposed to the angles found from that side of the window. And Neuro wanted to go quick with the exothermic, but decided to go off of it. And a call seems to be coming in that a full push from the logistics side is underway, as 4 or 5 people are on top of the roof on that side of the building. Drones are coming in as well, and currently unKnights, well, they need a win, and maybe going all together through the same 2 choke points could be the successful factor, because in the past they did manage to overrun cache.
I'm curious to see what adaptations sort of come through from their end. Now, obviously, it was so close, but I think G2, again, they've sort of pulled another play out, pulled another bit of the back line of their strat book and said, well, let's try this adaptation. The mirror is gone, which was that big consistency play so far for the team. They're pushing themselves into a slightly new direction and a slightly new take here. It was kind of aggressively swapped out in that situation, and here as they spray through and try to find that first bite. G2 otherwise aren't handing them anything. Still not paid any caution really towards the rafters, towards the garage side. They've set themselves up here. They're stacked. They want to find a way to get rid of that Valkyrie cam that they're pinging pretty consistently. The drone goes around the flashes and the cover, and this grenade's going to get a little bit of depth to it. It drops the shield just behind the cache itself, and now they're able to put a little bit of damage into the barbs.
A little damage being done. Angles hope to be found. They will be coming over, will be taking care of the bended wires, so that allows now Kioxis to open up on construction or to move in an array, because he of course has those 2 exothermics as well. Currently the plateau wall is not being challenged whatsoever, and you see the setup that G2 is employing. Everybody is towards the garage, everybody is towards the actual CCTV. As Void tries to take control of that garage, he will be met with like 3 people playing inside of it.
Sprays roughly towards the location, but without a confirmation, it becomes aggressively tough to get in. Kayak though I say they just drive their way through. He's been able to isolate the single man, but they've got to try and find a way to get rid of him, and it's Blaz. Over the shoulder, gets a bit of the cover. The smoke goes down, and they're going to try and do the same with the diffuser. Citizen is going on the rotation round red, but he gets caught out by Voy watching Lounge. Chaoxis with the cover, and suddenly Virtue, hey, you remember this situation? Yeah, you just got to do it one more time, please, mate. A post-plant situation. There's a couple more bodies this time round, but he's got to find 4 yet again. And this is a much better setup and a hold, and it is not broken this time round.
As I said, they managed to overrun Cash previously. They managed to do it now. Just running the door. There's just a single man holding you potentially, 50-50 on the side of the red stairs. And if pressure comes up from red, he might not be able to find you or pick you up as a result. And now unKnights win their 1 attacking round. Need a second though. And as G2 is going to Church Arsenal. And of course the site has been unlocked. It's a choice between that. CCTV Cache, which has been closed twice. Well, the second time not really, but lost. Or Bar Stock, which, as seen, has 0 place. It's understandable they're going back to Church Arsenal, because that one was a lot more comfortable. Yes, some of these black guys were found. The Valkyrie now gets picked in without even a 6-pick, so they're being very open about it. It's going to be interesting to see where these cameras will be coming into play. No IQ on the side of unKnights, as Jess said. The overall kit of IQ, not really too favored when there's things you can bring as the Yana, as the Sophia, which both carry a lot of utility denial in terms of impacts or grenades. Also the Gun 6, of course. Your 2 Heartbreachers that are mandatory for a map like Clubhouse. And well, then you still need soft breach. So where are you going to be fitting in the IQ? That is the big question. What would you be swapping out if you wanted to deal with these black eyes? And it's not only black eyes now. There is also yokai drones that will be on the board. With a supernova from Kayak, of course, will be helping Virtue with a bit of the landscaping that needs to be done. But either way, that is also a gun that we're seeing more often now, since that the Bearing 9 has received a small buff.
That's it. The combo there allows the Bearing 9 to be utilized a little bit more freely. There's some late camera placement as it hops out. Citizen is playing with a very aggressive rotation here. There is some support across the board, and I suppose it's seeing if G2 are able to punish unKnights on the approach, or they might find themselves suddenly a lot more isolated, as it's Hungry that is instantly under pressure, falls back and steadily pulls away, but it's all time that is going to fall into their favor, and time that's taking out of what was a late push from unKnights last time.
Definitely so. I believe some of the X-Cars now have been used to attempt to open up these hatches. Only 2 are left in pocket. Now, Durs in the meantime will be sneaking in from blue, and I believe that there's no one home. He's allowed to just freely come in here and potentially pick up a kill. No, there's a shield. That means Virtue hasn't been spotted, but the kill comes down onto Hungry. He tries to just run in. The shots are being missed by unK, but he will be able to get the kill nonetheless. Blue has been opened up now. Now the pressure will be coming in from Dirt as well. unKnights are going to be trying to outrun G2 yet once again, but this time on the bottom floor.
Here's a grenade that wants to pop around the close corner on the A case, and it's a spray round on the backside, but they can't quite get themselves entirely under control. Hidden behind the 3rd box. They're spraying towards a Valkyrie that didn't know that there was suddenly so much pressure from unKnights that flooded in. A bit of a TK Blaz. Well, you cut through your man, but you got the kill at the same time. A bit of an unfortunate lineup there, Thermite, but hey, we'll take it 4-2 before we head to our defense.
unKnights here managed to find 2 rounds off the back of the strategy that they attempted to run in CCTV Cache the first time around, which is just simply, let's try and outrun them. Let's try and overrun them on their side. If we take it slow, we're losing the gunfights. If we take it quick, we catch them by surprise, and we might be able to get away with it. It happened once in CCTV Cache. I believe that was round 3. However, clutched by Virtue, and thus they needed to, take enough of the loss. Then again, round 5, they outrun them. They managed to take the side. They managed to get the plant down and be in a 1v4 post plant again with the same spot, being the control point of G2. And then trying to adapt it so they could use it for their bottom floor. And it allows them to pick up 2 rounds on the attack. Something they haven't, unKnights that is, been able to do in the past 2 matches that they played. They only managed to get 2 defensive rounds in both those games. So this is definitely going to be a bit more well, bright looking for unKnights, that's for sure, because they managed to get these attacking rounds in. A 4-2 split is not too uncommon. Now to go over to the defense themselves. Plenty of time to study the attacks of G2 with the 2 times that have been shown before, and you can see it already with the, well, lookouts for the Valkyrie cams. They should be well aware of the attack that G2 wants to run.
Okay, a fairly big stretch and exploration for now, but as you said, there's a ping on a camera that's very quickly removed, and they made sure that nobody was able to swing out from that. A big pickup sticks as they head to a slightly different angle here. With the Monty, you have your ability to obviously drive your way through the top, but it seems like they're potentially going to try and find themselves on a slightly different parapet here as they angle themselves down from the top of the building towards the construction window. Going to make sure that that hatch gets popped open, and Drone probably won't be too much further behind, and that'll allow the big man Mountain to drop in, add himself as a bit of an anchor, that mobile wall that is otherwise so tempestuous and so tough to pass.
Drops down straight on, but Keox has managed to win the gunfight on unK. All the way from red now. Swings over, tries to put a little bit of damage towards Hungary, who is now forced to put his shield that way. That means that someone could be coming in from the CC window. Grenades being tossed out, of course, to deny any piece of utility that's out there, to allow Kayak to open up. And that will be done quite quickly as well, and that means G2 are working on getting their pressure down. The big thing, however, now is that Hungary is kind of stuck on highway. With that shield, you do not want to hop in from a window because that is a really vulnerable position, and thus he will drop all the way down. If I saw correctly, there's not really a garage hold or control coming in from the side of unKnights, and that is where the Monty excels. Moving up on these rafters, moving up and forcing a player all the way back through the window, and that's exactly what I think that Hungary is going to be doing.
Yeah, going for a hefty reposition here, going to see if he's obviously got his drone inside that corner already. He's getting a rough idea on where the bodies are. They have over a minute. They have time if they want to try and manipulate their way back round. They don't have the Hibana, which was a bit of a big loss because, as I said before, in the very early round, when you lose one of your 2 hard destructs, it really severely sort of dampens and hinders the plays that you can do. The creep to the top of the stairs, and this is just going to be a, hey, how you doing? How you doing, Aruni? Hey, you just want to keep going back? Yep, that's nice. You are gonna keep getting pinged. Gets behind them.
That is dangerous.
Yeah, that was a very slippy move, and that now puts Hungary in a very dangerous spot.
Luckily, there is, of course, a bit of control from the balcony that allows them to at least go for it. There you go. The gunfight gets initiated. Virtue gets the kill, but Hungary was the primary subject there by lowering that shield, taking all the attention up on him. Now there's a 4v4 situation, but only 20 seconds left, and they need to start moving now, but the Aruni gate's still stalling out some time.
There's the burn on the gate, and there is somebody who desperately wants to try and hop their way in through a window, but with the frost mats that are applying a bit of danger, it's going to be the breach, the open, and the cover of the wall. Blaz, he's crept his way into Oil Pit. There's no Claymore that's locking us off. They're looking for the fight on the staircase, but they just slip past. They can't quite get the solidity. Citizen goes down and is finally locked off, but there's a Monty on a door, and they get the diffuser planted, but suddenly it's just a Monty stuck in the corner, sprays through, low health and Virtue. He's going to the big opener that they have. There's a lot of time here for unKnights, and they're going to try and draw some attention and go for the defuse at the same time, but if they can get the cover here, Virtue is the main man. The play, there's the run out, there is the attempt with an SMG, and that was a very good retake from unKnights.
It definitely was. The Monty was being bullied a little bit there. There's not much he could have done up there. And there might have been a better choice to go all the way up to the back, to the ruins or garage section to have that long angle to play from, but due to the players still being active inside of the garage, they were able to go for that run out and get the kill. Get the round. With that, it's 4-3. Suddenly, the round deficit that unKnights have is just a singular round, and the attack of G2, well, we got them the plant, but it's another retake. Can be added to Tim's stats. See how that will shift that percentage up. As Hungary swapping off from the Monty, going up to the Capital because we're heading to Church Arsenal. Might want to bring some fire to the push that they are about to bring down. And there's again a multitude of options that G2 could go for. unKnights have had a lot of case study on the way that G2 played. You could see it on their attack when they were so well aware of all the default spots for the Black Eyes. I'm going to keep on repeating myself, but their attacks, of course, have been studied as well. And this might be a bit of underestimation coming in from G2 in the map ban phase, where they're like, all right, unKnights are currently last. We can bring them to club, right? We can do it. We can see if we can win there for a third time in a row now. And the Knights then suddenly put up a really good fight. Managed to get more rounds so far than they managed to get in complete games in the previous 2 play days. As right now, they have the opportunity to equalize the score. Back to 4-4 would be great. Blast almost losing his head there, though, due to, well, just some spawn fires coming through from the side of G2. Actually, they spawned and instantly open up onto these windows, hoping to put down some of that pressure. They are very well aware on the side of G2 that there is a roam heading on from that top floor, and a drone will be sent in to potentially guide Citizen into a spot to either drop Oil Pit or to try and clear, because it seems that G2 is currently debating 2 strategies. They could either hit the side directly because there is a heavy roam, and it seems that might be the exact thing they're going to do, or they're going to be clearing out the roam clear. Currently, it's like splits around. Oh, Nora just shot out the Heart Breach charge there. That is going to keep it close for a little bit.
Again, it's very good punishment that they're sort of able to lay into this approach of G2, and I think that was always the thing about unKnights, is they can be so good at just scrapping, at just finding fights and finding engagements, and that's sort of why they took their tactical timeout when they did. They wanted to realign themselves with that pace that they can apply here, and they've made sure that they can carry it over. The big rotation comes through, a minute 30 sort of gone, and you can see that the big rotation has gone through as well for both teams. unKnights, they've dropped themselves all the way down to the basement. They're reasserting themselves on the width of the hold. If it's something that G2 reads sooner rather than later, they can try and drive themselves through, but they're still quite cautious. Slow and steady, hot droning and making sure that they have some active eyes before they have potentially an active engagement. Obviously, in our position, it's easy to see that it's otherwise been left, but it's time that's sort of slipping through G2's fingers here, and time that makes that final push much tighter.
Definitely so, and keep in mind there was 2 players down on site earlier on, and G2 was debating whether or not to go for the quick push. Even the lifelines are being used now due to the lack of time of actually going for these drones. Some pre-fires coming in as well, so you're ready to go if someone would be on the stairs. The same worry about a Valkyrie cam now for Citizen. Quickly spinning around. Hopefully checking drone is active. Not quite sure if it was a friendly drone on the side of unKnights. Giving away a lot of the information. They know exactly where the Mozzie is. They know one should be behind the boiler as well. There's an array playing there. Have to make sure that they're not too greedy about this, because otherwise they're going to lose unnecessary lives. With only 35 seconds left, they need to push in now. Citizen tried to go, got taken out by Blaz. He knew exactly where he was and still loses that gunfight. Blaz, well done. And now G2 need to push.
Well, here it comes around the backside of Pipes, but there's one more back in their favor. Sprays over the top of the shield, but in the meantime, Void around the backside is able to swing around. They have all of these angles, all of this sort of control from this space. G2, they've lost themselves a bit here on the source. 10 seconds left, and Blaz has another one for his trouble. There's at least an exit for Kayak. Tries to find a second with the pistol, but unKnights bring themselves back level. And it's just been a great return to form for them.
It definitely has been, but keep in mind, Tim said this as well. As soon as they are starting to get their attacks underway, as soon as they get their first one, G2 often does not stop anymore. And that is the worry that is here right now. However, G2 still had their tactical timeout. They will use it now. They've just seen 2 of the sides. Twice they have been starved for time, really forcing themselves to go for a push which they were not ready for. unKnights once managed to go for a retake, 1v4 that was, and now managed to starve them out completely, not even allowing them to enter the site. So if they continue this pace, they should be good. However, tertiary bomb site, we're going to say it again, Gym Bedroom is about to come up. And G2, well, they will need to pick up this round if they want to keep that pace up. Because if they get this round, there's that opportunity to, in the next full circle, get that 6th one a little bit earlier.
And that's sort of the big worry right now, is obviously they've been able to build up some momentum. unKnights at this point, they've been able to get themselves back into the game. It was one of the things they said before their attack timeout was they weren't playing their pace, they weren't playing their game and their attacks, they were playing G2's. They were playing a very sort of methodical, slow, steady, heavy. We saw a lot of steps of a G2 plan because unKnights were going through all of the steps. They were sort of taking it as they could. And
yep.
You know, here I think it's that sort of similar story where G2 are trying to play their game, but unKnights are making sure that their positioning and their sort of mobility is one where it plays against how G2 like to approach this, how G2 are doing their control game. For me, it screams unKnights have done a huge amount of prep on specifically
They definitely
this map.
have.
And that's the thing, is this is the third time G2 have played it in a row. Look at how unKnights are positioning themselves. Look at Blaz when he was under oil pit waiting for that sort of push around garage. Look at how they're adapting to the plays that are being put forward against them. And that is a team that's done their homework.
I was going to say that you can see in literally everything unKnights do that they're very well aware of how G2 like to approach this map. And as you said, that is due to the fact that this is the third time in a row that they will play it, where twice they have been dominating their competition. Now, G2 thought they might have been able to get away a third time in a row with Clubhouse against unKnights, but are finding out right now it might not be that easy. A single more round, and unKnights has already beaten the two previous opponents that G2 has first against the site. And that means that a bit of pressure is on. They haven't been in this situation yet in the past 3 play days. Well, will be opened up quickly, however. unK is still in spawn, potentially on the drone, hoping to find Citizen or Virtue a way in. Mirror window, however, is very active inside of the bathroom, and of course Hungary will be coming up with the Monty to try and put up some pressure to try and, well, at least stop them from going back aggro at them. Potential X-Caros is a need to get rid of that mirror window. Currently, no one is inside a gym to potentially hold off that X-Caros that could be placed, and that also allows G2 to go for that freedom. However, they don't want to go for it yet due to the fact that they don't have CCTV control, which then again puts pressure onto the side of the highway. And that means that G2 need to start clearing. There is Black Eyes being spotted out. Citizen is playing inside of the pool, but the drones are still trying to gather the information. Ideally, what you really want to do is shut these players down to grab a rotation. And as Hungary is about to move in, it's Kayak that is putting himself in a very sticky situation. I literally said it as well. I don't think you want to go onto the highway there, and he gets picked up as a result. The diffuser gets dropped, and suddenly there's still no CCTV control.
Well, the ping's towards the mirror window, but it's still being played pretty aggressively, and you can see that obviously Hungary is just sort of saying, how wide can I go? They're testing the waters, they're trying to bait out some of that precious utility and some of that precious pressure, and hoping that there's a swing around the other side. But so far, no sort of give. And Citizen, yet again, has been able to creep himself into a situation. But previously, he was punished quite early on. Now, especially with Kayak off the board and almost the Monty 2. There it is, though. Citizen in a position to strike, drives himself deeper, but cannot win the second against Nora, who's able to have himself solidified. The grenade goes a little too deep there, doesn't quite connect with the body, was working brilliantly, but you look at the health of Derzy, you look at the health of Hungary, and those two are fighting in the gym right now, seeing who can get the scrap over the shoulder of the other. The spray comes through, but it's Chaoxis that's the one that lights up, and Derzy is able to swing around the side of the Monty. Yet again, the Montaigne is in a very tricky situation, dropped and sprayed across each other. They knew the danger there to play, but unKnights put themselves in the lead.
unKnights take the lead here against G2, who were for a while looking they could take the lead in the European League here today, but now it is starting to swing around. It is 4-5. It's round number 10, which is about to start, and the tactical timeout has not brought them some immediate magic yet. Big thing, though, is that we're heading back to CCTV, a site that has been shown before, a site that G2 has attacked before, and they're a highly adaptable team, a team that can learn from their mistakes, and the big question will be, will they learn from the ones they made before? The ones they made before, because unKnights, as we mentioned so many times before, and will be given massive commendations for it, have done their homework into perfection. They've counter-stratted G2 into every single point. They knew exactly that the cameras would be out, they knew exactly where the attacks would be coming from, and they set themselves up all around it. Of course, G2 able to get 4 rounds on that defense. You still need to attack. It is difficult, but now you're on the defense yourself, the favored side, and you've managed to outdo yourself over the past 2 play days with getting 3 rounds and already beaten the teams such as BDS, who first G2 on this map as well. Only were able to get 4 rounds in total. And now, unKnights have the opportunity of reaching that match point, of reaching that 6, the magical marker. And you have the opportunity to close it out for a full 3 potentially. get themselves closed up to the mid-table board if they would be able to get, of course, up to that 6 mark as well.
G2. Well, we didn't see success after the first tack timeout this game in the hands of unKnights, but then the 2 rounds after, which they needed to win, pretty much drove them towards the success they've built themselves behind here. Now, you've potentially suffered the same fate. However, if you want to keep this story straight, you've got to be able to secure this. Otherwise, you'll find yourself on the wrong side of map point with a little bit, which might turn into a lot of bit of work left to do. The Monty, yet again, is the drive up, but they're probably not going to go with the same depth they had before. They've also done this much quicker. And I think that's the takeaway here, is they're making sure they can get Rafters control. They're hopefully going to see if they can solidify Nura on the top of the board here. Previously, it was Blaz playing a little bit more aggressive, so maybe a more placid player might be the one that they can actually punish, but otherwise, it's still this sort of steady carry on. It's still this pressure that they're trying to apply here.
The fear is a potential Nitro a mute might carry along. This is what stops Hungry from really moving in. However, now the flashbangs will be tossed out. It will force the mute to go for it. A grenade will come in as well and beautifully picked up by Virtue. And this allows the Monty to move up much earlier than we had before. 1 minute 40 on that clock left, and we'll be taking control of the full Rafters. Now, CCTV wall has been opened up, but you got to keep in mind there's still 2 players below that could be coming for a huge big flank. We saw it happen from Blaz previously, went inside of Oil Pit, now hiding inside of the lounge, and Citizen will be able to pick up yet another kill. There's 2 players down here below. Citizen goes for the triple, no, actually a double, as he picks up Blaz as well.
Well, now he's going for the triple, but he knows he doesn't have to overextend. This is G2 playing, I guess, a little bit more of a default push here. They obviously took the control they needed to at first. They didn't try and drive themselves immediately into this, but look at the different levels of success it's had here. They, for the first time, find themselves on the good end of a 4 versus 1, and they make sure that they lock it out. It was a calm and collected G2. It was a G2 doing a push that I think is a lot more familiar to that sort of site. They didn't try and drive themselves in with the diffuser this time round, and it was a very important round for them because it keeps them neck and neck, it keeps them driving towards, and when they're this close to the top of the board, sure, they've almost secured themselves in the top 4, but a loss to unKnights at this sort of critical stage where they're not really massively in the fight, it's got to be one you try and secure.
I hate to say it, but we're always on the desk saying, like, if you're up against the unKnights, if you're up against Rogue, those are really points that you need to bring home if you want to be at that top 4 at the end. And the reason for that is because they are currently the lower ranked teams. Those are considered the easier matches, you can say, between brackets, and the ones that you should be really bringing in. And, well, so far, this easier matchup, between quotation marks, has proven to be one of the hardest that G2 has had this stage so far, because they find themselves at 5-5. Had a good first split, over to the defense, an attack rather, and got 3 in a row by unKnights. They now finally managed to find their 1, and now the question will remain. Ace said it before, if they are able to finally get these attacking rounds on the way, they will, well, get them back to back. Is that going to be the case here? Because now we're heading to that bottom floor. Site also shown by unKnights, also won by them. And surely adaptation should be the word here for G2.
Let's see how they try and drive themselves in here. What we sort of got an impression and idea was a bit of a slow close down across the top 2 floors. There was obviously more of a play up there earlier on, especially at this sort of point where they had unKnights players that they needed to unshelve and unhelm, and here unKnights have gone for a different alternate approach. They've locked themselves in a little bit more securely, and I'm curious to see how quickly G2 read into it.
Definitely so. 5v5 in terms of rounds and in terms of manpower. G2 need to be a lot quicker than they were previously when attacking this site, and we just saw in CCTV cache that they have the opportunity of running it down. This time no heavy roam though from the side of unKnights, and that should give a little bit more freedom to the side of G2 to, well, quickly clear, quickly open up these hatches and put up the extra pressure. But they do need to be aware, and that means that drone work will be done. And this Carrick is going to go for the opening of dirt to make sure there is pressure allowed to be put down. They have to be very careful because there's a player going prone right near it.
Well, he popped a couple of bullets through. He didn't quite catch anything of Kayak, but it's Chaoxis with, well, I guess the final swan song of that scope on that gun, which is going to be losing it. Cannot quite pop that off and does not have the utility at hand to be able to get it, so has to go on a slightly alternate side here. There was a bit of a distance between the mute jammer this time around, and that allowed them to drive that through it, push Chaoxis into a tricky situation, but as the pings come through, gonna hope to catch Citizen with the C4. He pulls back, and this is a G2 that's cautiously prodding. They have themselves set up and ready to eyes down at this point. They didn't quite have the positioning that they've been able to pull off now. Hungry is inside dirt. With that, Monty is gonna steadily drive, but yeah, not quite solidifying the hatch there as the camera and the drones come through. They realize that...
Retake upstairs.
Yeah, that's it. The bodies are pushing against Citizen.
We'll be able to pick up one at least as Blaz is going to go for the long way around. He's going to go for the long game, hoping to find and strike just in time before the execute of G2 gets underway. Foy receiving a bit of pressure. Durza now putting back pressure towards the Monty, who of course will be trying to go for a push here as Blaz will be spotted out. Decided to quickly go for the run downstairs as of course his position has been known. Now three people all very close up to one another. It's Kayak that tries to sneak in. If he manages to get behind the boxes, he's going to be able to go for the kill here. Citizen from above provides the cover. Foy needs to rotate into blue. The plants could be coming down any second now. There's 15 seconds on that clock. There's two people above the blue hatch. He gets one, but is it enough? Kayak goes down. That's the diffuser dropped as well. There's not much time left. They need to go for these drops, and Hungry will do so with the shield. He needs to be covered, but unK goes down. Virtue in a very important situation now manages to get one. That is going to be at least giving him an opportunity to go for the plant. Whiffs the second, however, and the shield goes down. It is Chaoxis to get that final kill. It is going to be the clutch and the retake here for unKnights, who read perfectly what G2 were doing, send the aggression up top, and made sure that the hatch was unplayable.
It was such a bold rotate in that situation. They suddenly realized that if we try and take this as a flat fight, we're not going to win it. They have us in a tricky situation. Let's get out of there. Let's pull our way back up. They even lost the first against Citizen, and to be fair, the double up there, going all the way to the top for Blaz to really pick himself up and find a new angle of aggression. It was just such a great movement there and really just pulled away. 5-6 match point. They're so close to taking not only a precious 3 points here, but against G2, a team that is at the top pretty much fighting to get themselves solidified there. Second place might seem a little bit tougher if this slips away from them.
Definitely will be tougher. I received word as well that if G2 would have won this by 7-5 or better, they had the opportunity to actually lock themselves in, something I thought was not possible. That is thrown out of the window now because all they can get is 2 points, which is 2 of the 4 that would be necessary to secure themselves. Still would be good. Plenty of time left to get those final 2, but we said it before, the match against unKnight was one considered by many, both socials and us as talent, to be won by G2. Of course, it's not over yet, but we're finding ourselves in a 5-6, and unKnights is all setting themselves up yet once again. No Mira on the board. Might give G2 a bit of a safer approach towards the Jacuzzi wall and potentially push on from there.
So, this Monty and the sort of roles that we've seen Hungry pick up and play, they're using it as this great obvious bastion, but to be fair, out of all the success stories, it seemingly cannot quite get that coordination of the lockdown of their movements and positioning, which to be fair, you can't really fault Hungry because he's playing his role well. He's driving himself into this situation, these positions, and he's often the one that is sort of trying off the cover, but it's the guns behind that unKnights are so good at punishing. They keep finding little ways round, little shoulders. Their movements have been so good in response to the approaches of G2, and that puts G2 in a tricky situation as you go, well, how do we sort of corral that? Do we put more guns behind the Monty? Do we try and sort of construct in a slightly different way, or do we look for punishment? And talking of, there's a bit of a dangerous angle and a gambit. That's a C4 in the pocket of Voy, and they're waiting for a bit of a creep closer here, and there it goes up, and well, if this takes out Hungry, they'll be forced to do an alternate approach.
It's being set up. Hungry is just trying to... Well, I don't think he's actively trying to bait. He's just trying to find some information on the stairs. There is a player still upstairs, I believe, from the side of unKnights. However, unK has the opportunity of giving away the information. Nitro gets spot. It's not going to be successful in finding anybody. It does, however, give them the information that a player was below, and it is Void that is now trying to rotate all the way back. And G2 now have decided there's really only one thing they can do. The round is slipping away. The match is slipping away from their fingers. And as the Exothermic gets spotted by the X-Kairos, it is going to be a grenade to be tossed in to hopefully take care of that Mew Jammer. Manages to do that. Only Exothermic left will now be used to open up the wall. As Kioxis is creating some extra lines of sight. Citizen will be going on a hunt. Decides to actually go back up. There's not enough time. A minute left on that clock. And unKnights, well, they currently have G2 in check.
Look at this yet again. unKnights are vacating the site. They're not going to take the fight in the positions that G2 want. They're going to sort of hand over the control, make sure it's not as scrappy and as dangerous so they can support these massive flanks, these massive rotates and roams that are otherwise being attributed. Durza is the one that's going super wide as Blaz tries to bite back. They're still repositioning, still moving, and still putting G2 in these uncomfortable situations. It's Durza with the creep up the back stairs. Citizen, I don't think, is fully aware, but neither is Durza. Goes up the back, and that was a moment that could have gone the other way with the default cam not quite reacting in time, maybe just drifted side of it. There's a drop and a take, but it's Citizen yet again, keeping a hold, keeping a bit of a mantle. Suddenly everything has fled into the hands of G2. They're going for the stick and the plant, and as Void gets locked off a Flawless to put them into OT, but it was far from a smooth run here.
It was definitely far from a smooth run. It took them a lot of time, and well, unKnights, as you said, they vacated the site to try to force gunfights into their own advantage. And just look, by the way, on how vocal Citizen is to the team right now. He managed to pick up some quite important kills, managed to shut them down as they tried to go for a flank from below, and then also managed to shut down the second who tried to push up from said area. Now, it is G2. Managed to bring it back to an overtime situation, but it will be unKnights that have the advantage of staying onto the defense. The side where so far 8 rounds were won compared to the 4 on the attack. G2, however, might have figured out the trick to attack the basement, where they will go back to now, because both the other sides have fallen into the hands of G2 on their second approach and could potentially fall onto a third as well. This was the only side that managed to win twice on their half, albeit due to the aggression they brought upwards to try and go for that retake. Something that could be adapted to by G2 if they realized what was going on. Of course, Citizen was still in a position to pick up these refrags. However, maybe a bit of a bigger roam could be crucial, could be successful. That's exactly what Blaz is setting himself up for.
Yeah, that big extension. They're not shying away from it. They know that they're building some success here, and they're going to sort of try and double down on that. They're playing a bit of a guessing game with G2. They're sort of pushing against the anticipation. They have some space, and, you know, plan A was this, and it came together for them. They were able to waste a huge amount of time off site, and whether G2 just try and drive themselves in. This is the quickest we've seen them go for this attempt on dirt control, and it's the quickest that it's come together so far. The Monty is ready on the shoulder to potentially drive down, and they do. Instead of going for the wider clear in the attempt at getting all the intel on the rest of the map, they're saying, look, we know that they're playing this tall hold, and we know that they're off site, so let's see if we can just drive in, force them back in quicker, and make that reappearance on the site much trickier and tougher.
Right around on the exit of dirt, might have spotted a player on the left. Kioxis is around the bomb chassis, surely will be aware now. Blaz and Nuray inside the blue. We're trying to go for the big hold off that they can. Just a singular roamer. Infoy inside of the bar has, of course, the hatch to play with and will drop now as well, meaning that no one is left. G2, 2 minutes on the clock, 2 minutes to go for an execute, 2 minutes for you unKnights to stop it yet once again. Look at that double Frostmat setup we have ready underneath the hatch. One at default plans, one right below the hatch, or at least around below the hatch, just to make sure you might be able to catch off these players if they start moving in, forcing G2 to force utility or at least attention towards those Frostmats.
It's the gambit. It's the hope that they go for something a bit scrappy, maybe with smokes covering those approach, and maybe they'll slip into it. But it's a gambit that they've done pretty much every time, and to be fair, we've seen G2 get close to getting the diffuser stuck in the situation, but the biggest sort of pull here was as soon as they got that Monty in position, they instantly pulled a lot of the play over, utilizing And the hope of being able to get out of that pocket utility to get them some more angles. They're still not 100% convinced that there isn't somebody playing around, and to be fair, we've seen unKnights pull off and go for these hefty rotates even when they thought the site was entirely out of their control. So it's still a little bit of missed moments for G2.
unK is completely blind now, having to stare through that shield for just a little bit. Grenades are about to be tossed in. 46 seconds on the clock. They desperately need an entry. Blaz will be able to find Kayak, however, as unKnights tries to challenge back. He's being swarmed over now by 2 or 3 people from the side of unKnights. But they also realize it's dangerous to try and challenge that Monty. 30 seconds left on the clock. The time's running out very slowly now, very steadily as well, as Kioxis gets yet another kill. It is going to be up to G2 to try and bring it back, but it seems like unKnights might be in control for this one.
The diffuser being stuck in dirt is what they have to try and pull themselves into. Virtue gets the drop, but gets dropped. It's Blaz. And sort of Chaos is repositioning themselves to try and get that lock off. unK's picked it up. The smoke goes for the cover on blue. They're hoping the spray comes through, but it's the C4 over the top. unK is going to stick it until the end, but quickly picked up by Chaoxis through the smoke yet again. unKnights, hold on, keep the claws in for the rest of that hold and make sure they have just that connection, pushing themselves once again to map point.
unKnights again, the ones in the charge, in the lead, having the opportunity of closing it out now, finally. 2 points for them up to grabs. 2 points that will be desperately needed. It doesn't close the gap completely to the, well, 3 teams in the mid-table, mid-low table. They are all on 6, but at least gets them loose from Rogue, who would then be on that bottom spot. 6-7, unKnights going to gym bedroom, and hopefully, well, their final attack. Let's see if they can close it out here. It's going to be the final attack nonetheless, but let's see if it will be the final round for them to play, because G2 went, goes back over to the defense. The mirror gets brought out. Back to the strategies that worked so well for them.
And that's it. Jim was there only 100% hold as well, but it was about 10 rounds ago. It is a little bit of history right now. The last time that we saw, obviously, unKnights able to pull a victory on their attacks was 8 rounds ago. They have themselves a bit more secure. They have a lot of momentum under their belt right now, and they have this little bit of hope, that little ray of, we might not be on the bottom of the board, sure, but if we can keep our aggression up, if we can pull points from the teams at the top, if we can keep this fire hot, this could be the start of a bit of a swan song in the dying throes of this split.
Definitely be. And work itself out to be. It's G2, yet again. A similar setup, one we've seen twice before. Of course, having the opportunity to roam, also having the opportunity to fall back from multiple layers. CCTV all the way back towards the actual site. And as Blaz is the one to enter first from the side of Strip, there's a drone waiting for him. Just gave the call that the walls had been reinforced, and he of course will be going for that hunt, wants to try and find Citizen. unK will be spotted out, however, and that's the first gunfight to be taken, but he manages to win it. Blaz will go down. It's the top fragger of unKnights. Together with Kioxis, that will drop to the board first, and that allows G2 to breathe just a little bit more. It's not over yet. unKnights still have 4 players left. They still have 4 players very capable of fragging left, and Citizen gets taken out next.
He hasn't quite been able to have the same impact, but the fact he's still sat there on 11 to 10 just shows the caliber of the player, that when it feels like he's not at his best, he's still one of the best in the game. But it's a big blow to lose them at this moment. Kayak's able to claw something back here and keep that drive going in their favor. Dropped from the hold above with the hatch open too. It's a steady approach here from unKnights. They're going to rotate their way deep all the way underneath the main stairs, seeing if they can find a bit of the loose threads to start pulling them and plucking them further away. They have a bit of a pinch and some of the control underneath, but it's still a drive that they've got to put themselves up to. Voy is spotted here, and with Durza underneath with some grenades, he might try and do something tricky, but I guess there's always that concern. Look at that, though, caught and hatched and waited and baited and perfectly played.
That brings it back to a 3-on-3, and quickly Axfil's out of the crime scene. We'll be bringing it back towards the actual site that needs to be attacked. 1:10 on the clock. Foy still holding off onto these main stairs. unK has thus no opportunity to try and rotate back closer towards the actual wall, the jacuzzi wall, because he's being locked down by Voy, who knows exactly that one of these G2 members is looking to rotate through at some point. They need to create some openings. They need to make sure that they can get the breach open. Now, there could be a Mew Jammer on the jacuzzi wall, but I'm not quite sure, and that forces Void to go for a bit of a rotate. Grenade will be tossed through from the rotation hole. You saw one of those smokes being used to waste the ADS, and thus the opening will be there. A quick rotation as well that we see. Kayak, the one who was supposed to be held down, now finds himself back right behind the mirror window. Smoke canister, however, will block his line of sight and will have to force to use his entire magazine, but only 20 seconds are left.
Yeah, great spray there, but look at them trying to drive that diffuser in against it. Durza has to do some pretty hot foot movement here, but Kayak is that pillion on the backside. Voy gets Virtue, but the time is very thin with the drop over. It's Kayak that keeps their momentum going. unK has a bit of a hand in the end, but it was a very shaky one as we go all the way.
So Frostmat there, or a player to take him out. It was either way going G2's way as soon as the jump in from that side came through. And now, it's going to be round 15. The one and final round. It's unKnights on the defense yet once again. CCTV Cash they decide to go to. And now it becomes tricky, because this is the side that G2 managed to turn around. Quite convincingly as well, from a 1v4 behind to a 4v1 on the turnaround. However, big change. It is not the Monty on the board this time. It will be the Capitao to come out and also the Echo to be shown. Now, they might not be looking for these yokais, but they will probably hear them if they're around the site, and that piece of information will, you know, get them to hunt. And a big change with the Capitao, of course, is as well, it's easier to flush out these players inside of the catwalk. Just a single bolt cannot be caught by an ADS, only by a magnet, which, well, is not being played so far by unKnights. It's going to be forcing them out of a position, and after that you can just take the gunfight and hopefully pick them up as that. It's an interesting shield in the middle of the lounge. Haven't seen that before. Is maybe to challenge the main door, which often is a point that Citizen tries to contest. Of course, as well, to get an impact in from below, to get the Mew Jammer out of the way. Really thinking about multiple layers on the attack here for G2 to try and stop them right in their tracks. So unKnights, they've set themselves up one final time. The action phase will commence one final time. And who will come out on top?
Well, Citizen, he wants a bit of pace here. This is where he was able to strike very importantly on the round that they, well, almost sort of started to bring some of their success back together. Virtue suffers very early on. The spray came probably from
rafters downing, I think.
Just from the top there towards the angle that was otherwise opened up by the sledge, who's been able to pull away. You think of how those grenades were used on their successful push here, where they drove themselves up. Sure, it's a different approach because you don't have the Monty this time around, but you still have two very important pocket bits of utility there to try and drive that body out the top of rafters.
Interesting setup we see from G2. A couple on the roof, just holding off on the windows. The grenade will be tossed in soon as Virtue drops down and throws it right in, gets the yokai in the Mew Jammer, allows Kayak to open up now. So the, well, part one of the step, multiple step plan has been completed. Next will be to dislocate Nura or go for the construction take before he's way too deep to try and deal with that. So they need to take care of Nura. He's being supported by a yokai, which is stuck to the roof right above the yokai, right above the Wakamata, I have to say. And thus we will see the Incendiary Bolt shortly to come out to try and take care of the player on Q2.
It also has the eyes, obviously, towards Lounge as well. The bit where we saw that bit of extension of utility. There is an ADS, at least, that's in the pocket above that they are holding on to for everything that they can, because it's kind of expected for this to be a big bout of pressure, and it's kind of expected to try and hold yourself in for as long as possible. Forced further away. The bolt will still sort of pop off, but it's Kayak from the opener that's able to drift it wide. A minute left, and they've been able to get that opening body, but they still have the tough push left. Blaz has relocated his way up to the top of red. He was before, but that's going to hand that territory over to Citizen, who's entering, and it's actually unK on the dangle that gets the drop. It's Kayak that gets dropped next, though, top of
Frostmat. No way he gets out of Frostmat. He needs to be picked up. His exothermic is needed to open up the garage because they needed to go for that safe plant, so they cannot be challenged from either side. And now Void's going to go on a rotate. They managed to get him up, but it's about 20 seconds wasted, mind you. 30 seconds left. They still need to open up the wall, and Kioxis is going to go on a rotate together with Void.
Well, Void's looking for the body outside. There is one holding that angle deep, but as they try and spray back 20 seconds, you're looking at what's still in the pocket. It's a C4, and it's an impact that might be able to have the biggest impact so far, with Kayak and Virtue both exceptionally low. The spray is attempted round the cover and the shoulder. The pings are consistent from that drone. The diffuser's dropped again. Almost gets the double on the hop-in on the window, but it's the triple round the back for unK. Suddenly another blue body falls, but unK with a 4K is the drive that finally gets G2 over that line.
It was so close. unKnights almost managed to get away with it. You can feel nothing but heartbreak for them. They've done so much work to try and counter-strat G2 into perfection, and they almost managed to get away with it, but in the end, they managed to get away. The Capitao coming in to clear the garage allowed them to open up, allowed them to move through. Of course, the Frostmet almost clutched out as it stopped Kayak dead in his tracks. Unfortunately,